We are live right now. Ready or not, here we come. Welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show. I am your host, Willy Bragg, and it is March the 4th, 2023. It's Saturday night, and on Saturday night, it is the Willy Bragg Show in partnership with the Cabarrus News Group, KRTD Media, where I and KRTD Media co-stream together to promote each other. I promote KRTD Media, and they promote me. This is how independent media works. So be sure to give a like. If you're watching from KRTD Media, give them a like and subscribe and hit their notification bell and tab. Follow them on Twitter. Follow them on Twitch, Facebook. Same thing on my channel. Follow me. Give a like. Because it helps with the algorithms. Subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, and follow me on Facebook. And I got that out of the way, and let me make some quick announcements real quick. And well, first, today's March 4th. So there's a birthday. And I'm going to be acknowledging Fiorella Isabel, who is the co-host of the Combo Couch. Today is her birthday. So if you're friends with her on Facebook, or if you follow her on Twitter or Instagram, I think she's on Instagram, go ahead and just tell her, wish her a happy birthday, or do so on YouTube. On the Combo Couch next time they do Combo Couch, I believe it's on Monday. So there's that. And also Nikitia, formerly known as Radical Leftist Agenda, is taking a little bit of time, and she's in Russia right now. So just drop a hi to her on Twitter. Tell her, wish her well. In her visit to Russia. She's tired. I talked to her a little bit earlier today. She's a little bit exhausted from her long flight. And she says she slept for 24 hours, which all those time zones I can imagine. So there is that. So anyway, a special announcement for Tuesday. My program around noon. Catherine Ann McCloskey, Margot Schulter, and myself will be co-hosting at 12 noon. And our special guest will be former UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter. Scott Ritter will be on the Willy Bragg Show, and we're going to be discussing War and Peace, his perspective on Russia-Ukraine conflict and his life in regard to foreign policy and things like that. Basically, it's going to be called War and Peace with Scott Ritter. So I hope that if you can make it live, to come over and watch us live and watch the interview. Very important person. I saw him speak at the Assange rally back in October. Great speech. And I saw him speak not at Rage Against the War Machine, but I saw him speak at the after event sponsored by Center for Political Innovation, and I saw him speak at over there. Real good speech he gave as well. So anyway, and one more thing before we get started. KRTD, Cabarrus News Group, is now monetized. So every 15 minutes, I'm going to do something that I don't like to do, but and because I feel odd doing it, and I'm going to feel odd doing it on my channel once I get over 1,000 subscribers. But so, be sure if you can to help them out. If you can do it. Basically find it in your heart to go ahead and contribute to them, whatever you can spare. Do it for my birthday. My birthday's tomorrow. I turn 54 tomorrow. So why don't you do it as a birthday present to me to contribute to KRTD Media, Cabarrus News Group. They would appreciate it. And I will try not to go and be so I'll try not to be so overbearing about that. So anyway, let's talk about presidential elections. That's what we need to talk about, because it happens once every 4 years. And, for me personally, presidential elections, they get more depressing each cycle. The only good thing about presidential elections, the more depressing it gets in the two-party system, the more delighted I am when I vote for a third party, because what's presented to me in the two-party system, they really end up not speaking on my behalf. The last time I voted within the two-party system for president, I voted in 1992 for Bill Clinton. I'm giving you my story, and it's going to tell you where we're headed right here. I'm sorry I voted for Bill Clinton. I despised George Herbert Walker Bush then. I still do, the late George Herbert Walker Bush. I wish I would have gotten on this third-party kick a hell of a lot sooner than 1996 when I started voting independent for president. But suffice to say that they don't speak to the American people, neither the Republicans nor the Democrats. And for many years, Democratic primaries have been, anybody who's decent will be really ignored, like a Dennis Kucinich type. I remember 2004 and 2008, how disregarded he was, and then 2004 seeing Howard Dean go now if you wonder why I made that sound, that's the sound he made that destroyed his political campaign. He was climbing up on the polls. He was not as far left as a Bernie Sanders, or which is he really that far left anymore? But you know what I mean. He was not as far left as a Bernie Sanders or Dennis Kucinich type, but he was like the first sign of people getting tired of what was called the New Democrat. The New Democrat that came along by the 1990s, the Bill Clinton Democrat, the Al Gore Democrat, the John Kerry Democrat, the Barack Obama Democrat, the Hillary Clinton Democrat, the Joe Biden Democrat, corporate Democrats, DLC clones, all these folks that Reaganized the Democratic Party and basically made the distinction between basically the Democrats were no longer Democrats. The Democrats became basically Ronald Reagan Rainbow Republicans. That's basically what they were to become. Ronald Reagan Rainbow Republicans. They were to become Reaganized in the 1990s through the Democratic Leadership Council. The Democratic Leadership Council was founded in 1985 after the electoral defeat of Walter Mondale in 1984, which was a massive landslide. And I was talking to a friend of mine about Walter Mondale earlier on the phone. Well, not on the phone, but I was talking actually on instant messenger, earlier this evening about Walter Mondale. After the George McGovern defeat in 1972, and we're going to get into 2024 right now after this, but after the 1972 landslide of George McGovern, where Richard Nixon won 49 states, the Democratic Party started kind of rethinking what in the world to do. Now, they weren't exactly ready for Jimmy Carter, but Jimmy Carter came along, and he sort of kind of campaigned on a homegrown populist centrism, sort of. Now, he was further to the left than Bill Clinton. That came along later on, but he was the one that came up with a lot of the neoliberal measures, such as deregulations and things like that, because there was a lot of mistrust and cynicism with government because of the Vietnam War, because of Watergate, and people just didn't believe in their government anymore. And people were just like, what's the use? To kind of restore faith back into your institutions, in my opinion, I think that he thought, well, deregulation. But there's nothing folksy about deregulation. I do not know why Jimmy Carter would do that, but that was what he focused on. Now, on the upside, he did campaign for Medicare for all, single-payer health care. And he, as president, did stand up more against the military-industrial complex than probably any sitting president since the end of World War II. That was why he was a one-term president. And it's amazing that he survived, if you catch my drift. He did stand up against the military-industrial complex, and he stopped the U.S. from doing a lot of things. Now, some things he did wrong, but there was a lot of things. I would say of all the presidents in my lifetime, as far as foreign policy, while he was not perfect, he was probably the least bad of all presidents in terms of foreign policy. We could use, at a minimum, someone like Jimmy Carter on the foreign policy scale level today. In 1980, Ronald Reagan basically sent some people to Paris to have a conference with people from Iran to delay the release of the hostages. They were about ready to release the hostages from Iran, the American hostages, and there was a reason why it was delayed. And there's no coincidence that that after Ronald Reagan was sworn in January 1981, that those American hostages came back to America. If you want to call me a conspiracy nut, you can. But that's what happened. And Ronald Reagan basically changed the conversation, the national conversation in this country. And the New Deal consensus that we have been going through since the end of World War II by both parties, Democrats and Republicans alike. The Democrats kind of went along with the New Deal. Republicans were reluctant, but they went along with it. By the time Ronald Reagan came along, he switched the conversation and flipped it, where now it's the Reagan consensus that dictates the rule, not the FDR consensus. It's the Reagan rules now. The Reagan regulations, the Reagan revolution is what they go by. And honestly, I don't like it, because what did Ronald Reagan do? His legacy, deregulation that basically led eventually to things like the housing bubbles in 2008. Yeah, I know Bill Clinton got rid of Glass-Steagall, but that's still a legacy of Reaganism, because had this Reagan thing never took place, things like Glass-Steagall probably would have never been done away with, and we wouldn't have seen what we would have saw in 2008, where we gave over $1 trillion to these corporations, to the banks and all of that, and from there on we just kept on giving and all. But Ronald Reagan busted the unions, the air traffic controllers, in 1981, and the unions have been suffering hemorrhaging since then. And in 1984, with the Ronald Reagan landslide of 49 states, they didn't know what to do. They figured that they would never win the White House again. So the Democratic Leadership Council was founded in 1985. People like Sam Nunn and I believe Al Fromm and folks like that, Richard Gephardt, people of that nature, they founded the Democratic Leadership Council. Bill Clinton was one of the early supporters of the Democratic Leadership Council, and it was to make the Democratic Party palatable. Walter Mondale, when he got the nomination, he was, you could almost say he was Bernie Sanders light. He was kind of a throwback to Hubert Humphrey in a lot of ways. And that was too far left for the Democratic Party. That was unacceptable. So they figure, well, let's do what the Republicans do. Instead of, we'll give the unions lip service, but we'll do nothing for them other than give them lip service. And we'll go and aggressively hound for those corporate dollars the way the Republicans hound for those corporate dollars. Not that the Democrats were non-corporate, anti-corporate. They were always a corporate party. It was just that the Republicans were more in your face about it. Well, the Democrats basically joined the club. And so what happened was that at that point, the Democratic Leadership Council under Bill Clinton, they decided to take a step further. In 1992, all language about unions were stripped from the Democratic Party platform. And Bill Clinton made sure that he was a fan of the death penalty. And he made sure that he was basically just a hipper, cooler version of George Herbert Walker Bush. They became friends later on, by the way. So, and Bill Clinton basically continued the Reagan-Bush revolution. The 12 years that we suffered from Reagan and Bush, well, we ended up still continuing it under Bill Clinton. The only thing is, you had reproductive rights protected. You had a few little things here and there that he would do. But you ended up with the crime bill in 1994 that incarcerated a lot of Black Americans. You ended up with expansion of the death penalty under that crime bill, which is offensive to me. A healthcare plan that they previously campaigned for Medicare for all, and all of a sudden they wanted to keep private health insurance in the system. That was the Hillary Clinton healthcare plan, to try to appease, to try to make it, to do the negative American exceptionalism. And so it was just kind of like they were trying to give us what the Republicans were handing, but give it to us with kind of a half-ass, liberalized version of what they were giving, of what the Republicans were giving. Welfare reform, Glass-Steagall being repealed, and basically the Democrats bragging that they're just slightly less evil than the Republicans. So that's where we're at. It continued with 2000 with Al Gore and Joe Lieberman as his running mate. So, and then George W. Bush. Well, I will say I'm not going to give you details of what happened in Florida, because the last time I did it, I had my channel pulled down for a week. But I still stand by what I said back then. Now, what I'm saying, it can't be taken down because I'm not giving details. But let's just say that when you have Kathleen Harris, who's the Secretary of State, Republican in Florida, Governor Jeb Bush, Republican governor of Florida, and a Reagan-Bush stacked Supreme Court, all involved, that's all I'm going to say. And we suffered under 8 years of dystopia called the Bush-Cheney regime. And then led us way to Barack Obama, who also campaigned as a centrist. And it was more centrism with more union busting, and just the country shifted further and further right. Obama was not a healing figure at all. I mean, he just another Democrat. Go into the year 2016, you have Hillary Clinton versus Bernie Sanders. and Donald Trump winning the presidency. And sorry, Russia did not put Donald Trump in the White House, okay? Russia did not put Donald Trump in the White House. Did not. Hillary Clinton was just a lousy candidate. And people were tired of being screwed over. So, there's a Michael Moore speech about how he predicted that Donald Trump was going to win in 2016, and he turned out to be correct. I will play the video, but there's some bad language involved, and it could get the channel demonetized, so I'm not going to play it. Entered the Democratic primaries in 2019, 2020. Bernie Sanders runs again, and of course, we know what happened. What happened in 2016 happened again in 2020. Not just Bernie Sanders, but Tulsi Gabbard was also what happened to her. But another person that was, and this is where we're going to start right here. Another person that was kind of considered a fringe candidate was, I felt like a number was done on her, was Marianne Williamson of California. She was a guru. You know who she is, for Oprah Winfrey and everything. She's a little eccentric, likable, but eccentric. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to talk about her for a moment, and I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of Marianne Williamson running for president in the year 2024. But before I do, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and play you a speech, her infamous speech from that time period. So we're going to get started right now. Here it is.
I have an idea about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not going to be beaten just by insider politics talk. He's not going to be beaten just by somebody who has plans. He's going to be beaten by somebody who has an idea what this man has done. This man has reached into the psyche of the American people, and he's harnessed fear for political purposes. So, Mr. President, if you're listening, I want you to hear me, please. You have harnessed fear for political purposes, and only love can cast that out. So sir, I have a feeling you know what you're doing. I'm going to harness love for political purposes. I will meet you on that field, and sir, love will win.
Love will win.
Thank you.
Y'all remember that speech, right? Well, a lot of people thought she was nuts and everything. And frankly, I did too, but I'm drawn to nuts. So I found her likable. I heard her on a lot of policy levels, and she sounded pretty solid on most things. That time I was for Bernie Sanders and I was for Tulsi Gabbard. They were my two choices, and both Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard are not without their controversies. I came into that primary having a good impression of Elizabeth Warren, and then ended up disliking snakes afterwards. I will never forgive Elizabeth Warren for how she done Bernie Sanders, even though I am angry at Bernie Sanders at the moment. Having that said, with regard to Marianne Williamson, and it looks like that Marianne Williamson will be running for president in the year 2024. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss the pros and cons of Marianne Williamson running. But before I do, I just want to say this, that we have super chats, and KRTD would appreciate what you can give, and just keep in mind, do it, just do it if you can. So that's all I'm going to say about that at the moment, and then I'm going to get to what I need to talk about with Marianne Williamson. Now, Marianne Williamson, as I said, there's a lot of policy issues where I find myself roughly in agreement on. She's a good down the line progressive, social democratic, I guess you could say. When she dropped out of the 2020 primaries, she endorsed Bernie Sanders. So I respected her even more at that point. Now, she's running in the 2024, going to be challenging Joe Biden. Now, the problem I have with her doing this is I would not have a problem with her challenging Joe Biden is she went into the primaries to do this with the intention of doing a dirty break, which is controversial. Something this is controversial is forced to vote. And for those who don't know what dirty break is, I think everybody in this audience knows what a dirty break is. But if there's anybody in this audience that does not know what a dirty break is, a dirty break basically is entering into the Democratic primaries to challenge the main Democratic candidate from the left. And I guess if you can defeat the incumbent Democrat or the establishment Democratic candidate in the primaries, you will run as a Democratic nominee. I guess that's how it works. But if the likelihood that the Democratic establishment candidate wins instead of you, then you go and you drop out and you run as a third-party candidate to challenge that person. And if Marianne Williamson would have done that, would have plans to do that in the year 2024, I could, in good conscience, look at her very seriously with the intention of supporting her. She's not perfect on all the policies. I mean, in some areas, she's to my right. She's to my right on certain aspects of foreign policy, and that's where there is a problem on the foreign policy side. I mean, she's not a Bush Cheney level neocon, and she probably wouldn't be as bad as Biden and Harris, but she is a bit more interventionist than I would like somebody to be. So that in itself makes her problematic, and that's why I couldn't. I myself, and I'm not judging for those out there. The Kyle Kalinskis and the Crystal Balls out there, those folks that they're for Marianne Williamson. And I'm not here to sit there and cast judgment on them. They do it from a good place in their heart. They're trying to find something to believe in within the context of the two-party system. I'm not one to judge. Let 1,000 flowers bloom, as the saying goes. But I just can't get myself involved with Marianne Williamson's campaign. I respect Marianne Williamson, but I just can't do it. I wish her luck. I will do that, but I won't get myself involved with her campaign. Now, I will cover her campaign. Obviously, I'm kind of doing it right now on this video here. I'm covering her campaign right this moment as we speak. And I will continue. And when she says something that's really going to, kick whether it's Joe Biden or whatever establishment Democrat, because let's face it, Joe Biden plans to run for re-election right now. And he believes he's going to run for re-election. And he may very well run for re-election. But you got to remember that there is a bit of a cognitive decline that he suffers from. It's a well-known secret. And so if he decides not to run for re-election, please do not be very shocked when that becomes reality. So there is that. And unfortunately, I think that if Joe Biden decides not to run, that will make Kamala Harris the standard bearer of the party, or there'll be others like Pete Buttigieg and some of these other folks that will be in the primaries, and they'll be challenging her, or she'll be challenging them, shall I say? And what's going to be kind of sad is that the Democratic Party has not learned their lessons, and they will probably, very likely, go with what they consider a safe centrist Democrat choice. And that's a problem I have with the Democratic Party. I'm going to be 54 years old tomorrow. And I have a problem with the Democratic Party always going for centrism, always going for being safe. And usually when the Democratic Party opt for being safe, it ends up with the Republicans winning. Now I know people are going to be like, well, look what happened here with this election. The Republicans did not do well. The Republicans still have a slim majority in the U.S. House of Representatives. It is still a majority. It is still, the Democrats lost the election. And yeah, it wasn't the landslide. It was not the Republican tsunami that everybody predicted it to be. And there are reasons why. And I think that some Republicans are sorry that Roe versus Wade was overturned, because as long as Roe versus Wade was chipped away the way it was in the Supreme Court, and it was not overturned, and Roe versus Wade, by at least on paper, was still considered the law of the land in the courts, I think that the Republicans' victory in November in the U.S. House of Representatives would have been a heck of a lot larger. It would have been not super massive, but it would have been they would have had a comfortable majority, and it would have been very possible they would have had possibly a slim majority in the Senate, like maybe 1 or 2 seats. But because the Republican Party, at the end of the day, and while I'm beating up on Democrats, at the end of the day, I do acknowledge that the Republican Party is worse. I don't mean your neighbor. I don't mean your family. I don't mean, if you go to church, people you go to church with, or whoever you associate with, or whoever you date, or what have you, the people you interact with. I mean, some of them are bad. Some of them are terrible people, but not all of them are. But we're talking about elected Republicans. And elected Republicans are always bad news just pretty much on every issue. Whether we're talking about the culture war, I mean, they're just horrible. I mean, the Republicans are on the culture war issues, they're pretty much fascists. I mean, you got Governor DeSantis, who basically wants to criminalize people who criticizes him in Florida. And I'm going to be doing a video on that hopefully soon, and trying to find a loophole on the ways that Floridians who hates Ron DeSantis to find a way to go and defy him online in ways that they can't be penalized, to defy him in every way, shape, and form. Because I promise you that if Ron DeSantis wins in the 2024 election, he's sworn in January 2025, while I will not put on a pink pussy hat, oh gosh, that was ridiculous what some of those folks did years ago. I will become part of the resistance in every way you can imagine, because Ron DeSantis, it's a fascist. He's a fascist, and we will become basically, the man wants to turn the United States into Chile under Pinochet. I mean, people say he's like Trump. No. DeSantis is more like Jair Bolsonaro. That's what he's like. But I'm sort of talking to the side and all that. My point is that the Republican Party's worse than the Democrats. But the problem is the Democrats always play second fiddler to the Republicans. That's been my problem all these years. I wish I didn't have to say this. I don't expect ideological perfection from the Democrats. I don't expect ideological perfection from the Democrats. I mean, let's go to another country. If I lived in the UK, I will obviously be a Labour voter. I will obviously belong to the British Labour Party. They're not perfect. Tony Blair is a glaring example of how imperfect a Labour Party can be. And Keir Starmer, the current moron, that's the leader of the Labour Party. But you know what? Tories are worse in the UK. But here's the thing about the Labour Party. When you compare the Labour Party to the Democratic Party, even the Labour Party at their worst times in the 1990s under Blair, and all that, there was still much further left than the Democrats here in the United States. The Democrats have always been almost as right-wing as the Tories in the UK, or in some cases, slightly to the right. And I will argue that maybe that the Democrats are probably slightly to the right of the Tories these days. Slightly, not a whole lot. The only area where they'll probably be further left, maybe on a few cultural issues, depending on the Tory MP, depending on the individual. My point is that I live in North Carolina, and the Democrats that are offered to me on the ballot don't stand for anything. I remember 2002, 2004, Erskine Bowles apologizing for being a Democrat. Oh, I'm a different kind of Democrat. And I got to feel guilty about not voting for Democrats. I mean, I for many years, I was a part-time Democrat. I voted for Democrats on a part-time basis. But the point is that I like Marianne Willamson. I wish her luck. And I would like for her, if she can actually make the establishment feel uncomfortable, great. I mean, I'm for it. I'm going to keep my eye on, and I will be open-minded about it. But for that stance right now, I'm going to say right now, 10 minutes to 10 on March the 4th, that I'm not as keen on supporting Marianne Willamson for president at this point. I wish her luck in the primaries. And, obviously she got the nomination by some miracle. She's definitely going to be preferable to anything that the Republicans has to offer. Make no mistake. Would I vote for Marianne Willamson over Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis? Now, I just actually thought of that question. And while I said that I would never vote for another Democrat again, would I vote for Marianne Willamson over Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis? I guess I would actually. If it comes right down to it. I know that's not going to happen, but if it did happen, yeah. I mean, obviously she's a better choice than Donald Trump. Obviously she's a better choice than Ron DeSantis. So there is that. So let's see here. Let's go to the next candidate. All right. All right. Let's do that. So where I stand on Marianne Willamson. So we're going to go classic on all of y'all. Who am I talking? What do you mean we're going to go classic? Well, as anybody who knows me on this channel, and I hate to even repeat myself, but I'll tell you about myself. I was the first online Bernie bro. I'm talking about prior to 2015, 2016. I was the first online Bernie bro. I predated all the Bernie Sanders supporters online. In fact, a lot of people who I'm friends with, lefty, righties, moderates, who I know personally, they know me. They know who Bernie Sanders, who he was as a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, because by golly, I told them all about Bernie Sanders back in the 1990s, early 2000s, before he became a senator and as a senator. And I was excited when Bernie Sanders decided to run in 2016. In fact, I was probably the most excited in 2016 of any presidential election cycle ever. Because on policy, as mad as I am with Bernie Sanders, he is second to none. Even right now that I'm angry with Bernie Sanders. I'm angry with Bernie Sanders right now. But he's still second to none on the policy side. I just wish that he'd be aggressive and push forward with his policy. The amazing atheist, T.J. Kirk, once said that he wished that there would be a political candidate with all the policies and the good ideas of Bernie Sanders, but had the dismissive sort of, I'm going to edit myself, the dismissive FU nature of Donald Trump, the kind of abrasive, brash, kind of dismissive, insulting attitude of a candidate like Donald Trump, but without Donald Trump's bad politics, but with the good politics of Bernie Sanders. I'd be inclined to agree. Bernie Sanders' biggest problem is his empathy. He's too nice a guy. And so, he doesn't want to upset his good friend Joe. And again, I'm repeating myself. Okay, 2016, he dealt with Hillary Clinton. a very despicable person, and even right down to her demeanor. She's just a very she's just not a likable person. Versus Joe Biden, who's the same person on policy as Hillary Clinton, but the difference between Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden is whatever you may think of him on the policies and some of the things he's done in the past. He comes across as this grandfatherly type, and so, you know, and apparently he made Bernie Sanders feel at home when he was in the U.S. Senate in 2006, and so he had a connection with Joe Biden. Apparently, Joe Biden is a likable person on a personal level. Friend of the show, Lucy, host of Blue Moon Red Wine, protested in New York a few days before the 2022 election. With I cannot think of Jose Vega and Conan Twistle. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce that other guy's name. They were out there protesting against Joe Biden with the Ukraine-Russia conflict going on. And she said that hearing him live, that he must be trained to do this. He must be trained, because she said he was kind of charming in person. Hearing him, I mean, she didn't talk to him, but she heard him live and said he was kind of charming in person to hear. She still doesn't like Joe Biden, but that's, that was the impression she got. And so we had a discussion about that, and I talked about his history. So in relation to Bernie Sanders, I think that's what he suffers from with Joe Biden. He doesn't want to hurt Joe Biden's feelings. So he tread very lightly right now during the Biden presidency in ways that he didn't with Obama or Clinton, opposing Bush and opposing Bush and opposing Trump was easy. To a degree, opposing Obama was kind of easy too, but I guess with Biden it was a little bit different. So that's what happened with Bernie Sanders. I'm talking around in circles. What happened is that Bernie Sanders, running for the presidency in 2016, he ran an aggressive campaign, and unfortunately, I'm not going to go into details because YouTube could get me. YouTube would love to go and penalize me for talking about elections in the way that I want to freely discuss elections. But you know what happened in 2016 and 2020. Let me just say this. In 2016, he was aggressive, and he ran like the Bernie Sanders I knew and loved. Maybe not as radical as he was in the 1990s, but still, he was the Bernie Sanders I knew and loved. In 2020, even though I was still kind of like the hysterical teenager seeing the Beatles in 1965 at Shea Stadium when Bernie Sanders had come up on a stage, you know that footage where all the teenagers are going and screaming because they're happy that the Beatles are playing on stage at Shea Stadium or whatever wherever they were performing back in the 1960s. That's how I was with Bernie Sanders. And the thing about it is, with old Bernie, the problem with Bernie in 2020 is he dotted his I's and he slashed his T's way too much. Way too much. And the problem with Bernie is when you sit there and you slash your T's and I's, you slash your T's and dot your I's way too much, and you try to not repeat the mistakes you made in the year 2016, and and you're trying to be calm, cool, and collective, and all of that. It backfired on them, and they knew that, and there were responses that was made to make sure. Now, COVID had a lot to do with. There is COVID too. COVID. There's no conspiracy about COVID. COVID he partly dropped out because of COVID, suspended his campaign. Because again, the empathy factor. He doesn't want people to go to the polls and endanger their lives with COVID. COVID was a serious thing. So there was also that, but it was a very depressing time for me. I went through some serious meltdowns because seeing my candidate being, taken away from me again a second time. And, it just kind of like, okay, we're going to have Dumb and Dumber, to choose from. And that's what ended up happening in 2020. Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Dumb and Dumber. And I wasn't going to play that game. I mean, I almost voted for Joe Biden because I was shamed into or guilt tripped from 2016 for voting for Joe Stein. And looking back, I'm like, why was I guilt shamed for voting for Joe Stein in 2016? I mean, if I could go back in time again to the year 2016, I would vote for Joe Stein over and over and over and over again. Well, I decided, you know what? Howie Hawkins. We never met, but we kind of know we kind of know each other. I was in the Socialist Party USA for many years, and he's a member of the SPUSA as well as a member of the Green Party. I was like, you know what? I'm going to give Howie Hawkins my support. I voted for Howie Hawkins. I was glad I supported Howie Hawkins. So there is that. And because, I just couldn't vote for Joe Biden. Now, as far as 2024, Bernie Sanders said he's going to go and he's not ruling it out. I guess if Joe Biden doesn't run, I guess he would run is what he's more or less. And I think he would like to run. I think he would really like to run. So what I'm going to do is he's a little mad at me. David Pakman's a little mad at me, but I'm going to go ahead and play a video from I made David Pakman mad at me about a week and a half ago on Twitter over a past video regarding Tulsi Gabbard and Glenn Greenwald, which I disagree with, but he got kind of snippy with me. But oh well, he'll get over it, I guess. So. Okay, so let me go ahead and play you the video regarding Bernie Sanders from the David Pakman show. So give me a moment here. Alrighty, here we go. Oh, no, not you. Not you. Right here it is.
About Bernie Sanders continues. Bernie Sanders now says he will give 2024 a hard look if Joe Biden doesn't run. Bernie's saying he will not try to primary Joe Biden if Joe Biden runs for re-election, which I think it's looking more like he will, although it's not totally clear. But many say, including me, that Bernie's time has passed. I supported Bernie both times, and I think he is great from a political standpoint. But my feeling is that his time has passed, and we need to go younger than Biden, not older. And it's not ageism, it's just being practical. Let me know what you think in the comments. Well, the speculation about Bernie Sanders continues. Bernie Sanders now.
Okay, well, you got the gist of what he says. And what he says is this. I mean, he thinks that Bernie Sanders is a little bit too old. This being too old business, I'm sorry, my buttons. This being too old business is I don't go by that. I go by how qualified you are for office. If I have a problem with Bernie, you heard my problem. The empathy factor, and then of course he's going to end up not doing a dirty break. He should have done a dirty break with Hillary. He didn't. He should have done a dirty break with Biden. He didn't. So, and he's not going to do a dirty break in 2024. So that would be my problem with Bernie. And plus, he's not going to be taken seriously in 2024. I mean, in fact, he's got great ideas and everything. The only way I think that Bernie Sanders could make an impact in 2024, the only way I think he could really make an impact in 2024 is if he just decide, I'm old, I might as well run as a third party candidate for president. I think that there will be something to that. I think the Green Party will give it to him. Now he's going to have to get better on some policies, and he's going to have to get better on the Ukraine-Russia situation, because his position currently on Russia-Ukraine is pretty bad right now. In fact, I'm probably more mad at him on that policy as I have been on any policy right at this point. But if he did even if he did a primary thing and with an intention of doing a dirty break, jumping on board and going on to the Green Party, that would be something. And if I lived in Vermont, if I were to move to Vermont next year, would I vote for Bernie Sanders for re-election for the U.S. Senate? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would do it as an old school Bernie bro, not to the level I did it for presidency, but but for the Senate, I would vote for Bernie Sanders. He is still probably the best thing in the U.S. Senate right now. And so, he would get my vote. I can't say the same about anybody else. I don't think I wouldn't vote for the squad, anybody from the squad at this point. I just wouldn't. But as I said, the empathy factor needs to go, Bernie. I wouldn't say cowardice, but there's a fine line between cowardice and empathy. The empathy thing needs to go. You just need to be brash. You birthed the dirtbag leftist movement, Bernie. Act like one. Act like one, please. So there is that. So I right now I'm going to be inclined to say, don't do it. Don't do it, because they're not going to take you seriously, Bernie. They're in fact, for your sake, don't do it. And for the sake of people like me that supported you the most in the past, don't do it. Because, you're not going to, when you lose even me, that's it. That speaks volumes. So, I just want to elaborate on that point right there. But, again, for those that will support Bernie Sanders, if he decides to run in 24, there's no, again, don't take it personally. It's just what I feel. And again, let 1,000 flowers bloom. So, anyway, let's go to the third person, shall we? He's very, 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 very controversial. But before we do, we're going to start with a speech that he made at Rage Against the War Machine. And then I'm going to discuss a potential plan to run for the presidency. So you probably know who I'm talking about at this point. So I'll go ahead and play you the video, and we will have a discussion very, very soon thereafter about that. So give me a moment here, and we will get started underway. All right.
Jimmy! Hello, thank you. I'm going to head for Nelly one more time. It's great to be here. It's really encouraging to see so many people come out like this. It really warms my heart. And it reminds me of my best friend, Barry Crimmins, who is a hilarious and courageous comedian, a staunch critic of the U.S. government, and I know if he was alive, he'd be here today. How about this? Is this better?
You're hearing people saying Jimmy Dore 24, Jimmy Dore 24. And by the way, I was out there when he spoke. I was out there. I was at the Rage Against the War Machine event about a week and a half ago. Actually, 2 weeks ago. What am I talking about? 2 weeks ago. So anyway, we'll let him continue.
Okay, on my feet. Hold on. All right, so I'll hold this. So I've been thinking of my friend Barry Crimmins. He was a hilarious and courageous comedian. He was a staunch critic of the U.S. government, who I know if he was alive would want to be here today. But people would always ask him, hey, if you don't like America, why don't you move to another country? And he would say, because then I'd become a victim of our foreign policy. It's not working. People can't hear it back. Why is this? It's too low. It was just really loud, and then it got really low. Can we make it louder? No? Can we make this louder? Where's it got? Is it over here? Can you make it louder? Can you make it louder? No, you can't make it louder. Oh, there you go. There you go. Holy shit, that wasn't hard, huh? What the fuck? Fine, I'm not going to start over, but I should. Start over? All right. So I'm reminded when I look out here, my friend Barry Crimmins, who was a hilarious and he was a courageous comedian. He was a staunch critic of the U.S. government. If he was alive, I'm sure he'd be here today. People would always ask him, hey, if you don't like America so much, if you're such a critic, why don't you move to another country? And he said, I would, but then I'd become a victim of our foreign policy. Joke word twice. He used to say there's a reason why there's no viable third party in America. It's because corporations don't want to cut a third check. And that's a shame because the two parties in America that we have just ain't cutting it. They both support sending over $100 billion to Ukraine. We could have spent that money saving lives with universal health care, but instead we spend that money taking lives overseas, which is our specialty. We send them what we call foreign aid. Foreign aid, that's money to another country. We drop care packages on their heads from the sky, but it's not full of food. And the only money we have left over, we're going to spend shooting down hobby balloons. Can you imagine if Independence Day was just about balloons? I mean, the movie, right? The aliens are invading, and man, they are taking their time. At least Macy's figured out how to make a balloon look like somebody. They could attack us with Superman or something. Would Mickey Mouse's adorable ears eavesdropping on our cell phone conversations be so much worse than the NSA? I don't think so. Do you know we could end this war today through diplomacy, but our politicians want to enrich weapons manufacturers, so they keep donating to them to the tune of $100 billion. Chris Hedges has called America a mafia state. Systems of governance that are seized by a tiny cabal become mafia states.
And we are the biggest mafia state in the world right now. And you know, just and I mean, it's sad. I mean, it sounds like being harsh on America. I'm not talking about the American people. We're talking about horrible people that run our government.
The military-industrial complex and the Ukraine war represent an orgy of looting and corruption. America is the most powerful mafia that has ever existed. And the hitmen in that mafia have military pilot licenses. The difference between our government these days and the mafia in the 1940s, well, the mafia in the 1940s helped defeat the Nazis. They used longshoremen and union leaders. It's a sad day when you can't even trust the mafia anymore. Do you know what America really needs? We need to take the money out of Ukraine and give it to everybody here so we can buy a balloon and a gun. That's the only way we can settle this. We all need to be floating around shooting each other down out of the sky. Better yet, the guns shoot vaccine syringes. Yeah, that's America. Eat boosters, you motherfuckers. America is so corrupt, even our Peace Prize winners are war criminals. Barack Obama won a Peace Prize and he immediately ramped up the war in Afghanistan, starting bombing Libya, put a hit on Osama bin Laden, dropped 26,000 bombs in Syria. And that's the thing about those Peace Prizes. Nobody ever tries to win a second one. I have a list of things we could have bought with that $100 billion instead of sending it to Ukraine for killing people. Instead of sending money to Ukraine, we could get President Biden a dog that knows where to lead him when a press conference is over. We send enough money to Ukraine to buy everybody a tank of gas. For all the money we've given to Ukraine, do you know how many eggs we could buy? Almost a dozen. With $100 billion, you know, they could say you can end homelessness for $20 to $40 billion. We could have ended homelessness, then restart homelessness, then say we were only kidding, and then end it again.
You know, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about Jimmy Dore possibly running for president. And, you know, thing about it is that Donald Trump, when he was president, he made me laugh, but he made me laugh with bad policies. It'd be kind of nice to have a president that can make you laugh and make you laugh with good policies. Just saying.
We can't end homelessness in America. We can't even fix the bridges that the homeless people live under. That's how corrupt we are. Every American for $100 billion could have had a home. But it's way more important that we make sure nobody in Ukraine has a home, because now it's going to be turned into a crater. We could give every homeless person in America $160,000. Or if you want to help Americans but still show our support for Ukraine, we could buy every homeless person in the United States 7,000 Ukraine flag fleece blankets. We could have used that $100 billion. $100 billion would have provided universal health care to all the people in Algeria, Botswana, Morocco, Rwanda, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Romania, Croatia, Mexico, and Peru. Oh, wait. Those countries already have universal health care. My bad.
Yes, and with our foreign policy, we fund universal health care in countries like Iraq and Afghanistan, and a lot of neolibs and neocons who supported that carnage over there supported the one good thing about it over there, which was to give Medicare for all, or a single payer system, or a national health care system to the people of Iraq and Afghanistan, which I am for. But why can't we have it here? For some reason, we can't afford it here. This is crazy. But anyway, I will let him continue.
For the $100 billion, we could buy 2 FTX collapses. For $100 billion, we could buy every person on Earth a blue check mark on Twitter. Because shouldn't we all have an equal opportunity to be insufferable assholes? For $100 billion, we could get Chick-fil-A to stay open on Sundays and perform gay weddings. For $100 billion, we could buy an entire separate Russian invasion of Ukraine and have enough left over to pay Hunter Biden's monthly salary for the rest of his life. For $100 billion, we could break the Bank of England 3 times. We could buy every man, woman, and child in America an opportunity to pick something really nice from the Goop catalog. I know I didn't get that joke either. For $100 billion, we could have the entire cast of Shark Tank dropped into an actual Shark Tank. We could pay for 90 Alex Jones lawsuits. We could buy a shit ton of balloons to spy on China and still have enough money left over for complete regulatory capture. Is that special? We could have gotten like 5 experimental drugs approved. For $100 billion, we could remake the Marvel Avengers movie with the entire original cast, but as a porno. We could do that 90 times over. We could have spent that money on transportation, high-speed rail, but it was more important to fund the people who duct tape somebody to a lamppost with their pants pulled down. We could cure cancer, but Bitch Farmer wouldn't be happy with that because they prefer 6 people instead of healthy ones.
Amen. Amen, brother.
With the money we sent to Ukraine, we can hire an entirely separate new police force to protect us from the current police force. We could have funded everyone having free college instead of buying a Mount Kilimanjaro's worth of blow for Zelensky. Why are we sending that money to Nazis in Ukraine when we could be funding Nazis here in America struggling to buy eggs? Isn't that just like our government to neglect all the Nazis we have here in America? This is really a fight over nuclear war. Just across the road, there's a statue of Albert Einstein, and man, he looks depressed. He once said, if I could do it all over again, I'd be a plumber. You know why he said that? I thought it was because his toilet was always backed up. It was because the military-industrial complex used his science to kill people. They took Einstein's discovery and used it to melt the skin of Japanese civilians. Entire cities full of children and animals extinguished in less than a minute. Generations poisoned by radiation. Bombs today are much more powerful than those bombs we dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I know there's some people who wouldn't show up to this peace rally, this anti-war rally, because of some of the speakers they didn't like on this stage. And I get what they're saying. They're saying, hey, I want to help stop a nuclear war, but not with those people. I get it. I'm the same way. My house caught on fire a couple of months ago, and when the firemen showed up, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What's your views on Social Security and Medicare? I mean, I get this is a scary situation. My house is on fire. But first, I need to get your stance on LGBTQ and gender-affirming surgery. I know my house is burning down, but are you vaxxed? I need to see proof of at least one booster. I need to know what your position is on gender-affirming surgery. What age should it start and what's your cutoff? And they're standing there looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. I guess you don't get to put out my fire then, and my house is going to burn down. I hope you're happy. So when people give me a litmus test and they ask me what kind of lefty am I always say I'm a Sandy Koufax lefty. Okay? When it comes down to survival, which this is, there is no gift basket with a card thanking you for your participation. You don't get everything you attended to like in a hotel, but maybe you do get to survive. And that's the whole point. Save the nitpicking for Whole Foods. The people who won't be attending today had never any intentions of doing so. And if it wasn't one of the speakers, it would have been the weather. It would have been because they had more important things to do than survive. They'll be home watching CNN, not cover this all day. The people who don't want to attend this rally because they don't like a speaker reminds me of what W.C. Fields said, that he won't drink water because fish fuck in it. You have to work with people you disagree with big time, even sometimes people you hate, because we need each other to survive. I'm reminded of the words of Frederick Douglass, who said, I will join with anyone to do good, but with no one to do bad. If Black Panthers can march hand in hand with the KKK down Las Vegas Boulevard to get welfare payments reinstated, we can join hands with the right wing, the libertarians, the left, the socialists, the communists, everybody to stop a nuclear war. And what's happening right here at this rally is what actually scares the hell out of the establishment. Everybody from the left, everybody from the right, everybody from the middle coming together to realize that we have more in common than divides us, and we share a common enemy. That enemy is the military-industrial complex and the oligarchy. The same oligarchy that did a controlled demolition of our economy, and then they want me to hate my neighbor for the pain I'm feeling because of that, because they wouldn't take a vaccine that didn't work the way they said it did in the first fucking place. Well, I'm not going to hate my neighbor. I'm going to love my neighbor. Because my neighbor is suffering under the same oligarchy that I'm suffering under, and he didn't cause it. The oligarchy did, and they don't want us to join together. And I have one message for the right and the left. If everybody on the right could just realize that not everybody on the left likes Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. We just want to end the wars and have healthcare that doesn't bankrupt us. That would go a long way. And if everybody on the left could just realize that not everybody on the right is a white supremacist Trump or gun nut, they're just fucking gun nuts. I love you, love each other. Come together. I'll see you at the next anti-war rally. Stay together.
Okay, righty. Yeah, I had to play that, and here's the thing. I had to play it all the way through because there's the reason I'm playing that is because there's talk about Jimmy Dore running for president. And Jimmy Dore supported Bernie Sanders in 2016, and he supported Tulsi Gabbard in 2020. And so the thing about Jimmy Dore is that he's a controversial person, and he's misunderstood by a lot of people. He's misunderstood. And people misunderstand my position on Jimmy Dore too, because I have a lot of people I watch Jimmy Dore. I subscribe to his channel. I agree with him most of the time. I don't agree with him on everything, but I agree with him most of the time. But there's people around that thinks that Jimmy Dore is right wing. I don't get it. What he didn't hate Donald Trump enough, like everybody else from what was called the resistance. He didn't do that enough. The fact that I mean, I didn't 100% agree with his positions on vax, but that's not an issue. That's not an issue. I have my own personal position on vax. Nobody likes my position on vax either, okay? My position is that mandatory vaccines or people who are anti-vax, whatever. I'm vaxxed to the max. I'm boosted. And it's my choice, my body, my choice. And if you don't want to be vaxxed, don't be vaxxed. You want to vax yourself to death, vax yourself to death. Your body, your choice. My position is healthcare, getting everybody healthcare. And that's where I would agree with Jimmy. And Jimmy's been more right about things than wrong. And when I mean he's right, I mean he's left. If Jimmy Dore were to run for president in the year 2024, would I vote for Jimmy Dore? And the answer would be yes. I would say between Marianne Willamson, Bernie Sanders, and Jimmy Dore, right now, given the history of what's happened in the last decade with the left being the way it is, and with even with some areas where I may disagree with Jimmy Dore, would I go and be delighted to vote for Jimmy Dore? Yes, I would be. I personally would say Jimmy Dore, Breonna Joy Gray. You know, it's not written in stone because in 2020 it was Bernie Sanders and Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know. I can't read Jimmy Dore's mind. I'm like to think that maybe when he and Nico House were supporting Tulsi Gabbard, I believe Craig Passadurdula supported Tulsi Gabbard in 2020. I think Fiorella supported Bernie in 2020. I think that and I know that Shoe on Head was like Bernie and Tulsi, and I was like Bernie and Tulsi in 2020 myself. I think that those who were like solidly in the Tulsi camp in 2020 were probably hoping that Tulsi would be Bernie Sanders' running mate or would have a position in a Bernie Sanders administration. I can't read minds, but that's what I sort of think. But having that said, Tulsi's a little different from what she used to be, but she still overall makes sense on the foreign policy side of the equation for the most part. I just wish she would not be so culturally conservative. But I'm not a cancel culture person. And I know good leftists out there that still support her. But the point I'm trying to make is that that Jimmy Dore, the idea of Jimmy Dore running for president, given a choice between someone like a Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump being a likely person to fill in to be the Republican standard bearer, or whether it's Joe Biden or Kamala Harris being the Democratic Party standard bearer. How in the world would a vote for Jimmy Dore be a terrible thing? We're talking about somebody who supports labor unions. We're talking about somebody who makes it clear supports Medicare for all. We're talking about somebody, when it came to Medicare for all, how to achieve it, had the right idea. Well, it wasn't him that came up with the idea, it was DSA, but he borrowed the idea from DSA, called Force the Vote, which was a damn good idea. We're talking about somebody who looks at the two-party system. And I'm probably going to have to apologize to him because for a while, I thought, man, Jimmy, you're a little harsh on Bernie. You're a little harsh on AOC. I mean, I still agree with your critique of them. You're right about Bernie and you're right about AOC. But man, you're harsh on them. That's what my take was. And I may not be like 100% still be 100% there, but I'm like, I'm it's more clear on why he's harsh. And sometimes he got to be. And I like it best when he said that, when people basically like these dummies like Bosch and Sam Cedar and Shank Ugert and Anna Kasparian are sitting there basically calling him a closet Republican. And I talked about David Pakman earlier. I can at least respect David Pakman's critique of Jimmy Dore, because his critique is just the opposite of those guys. Because it was with David Pakman. David Pakman's problem with Jimmy Dore is probably a correct one, and that is correct in the sense of how he views the ideology of Jimmy Dore. And Jimmy Dore is too far left, and Jimmy Dore's to my left. I don't know where people get the idea he's right wing. He's to my left. I mean, he's still on left. And the man is anti-censorship. He's anti-cancel culture. Those things are important to me. I would say maybe at this point, I talked about Bernie Sanders birthing the dirtbag left movement. I saw an old video from Tim Pool the other day that just kind of popped up on my feed about that. But which I wish I would have been doing a streaming in 2019, because I could have just basically just destroyed his video, destroyed the straw man that he made, but on that dirtbag left movement. But anyway, Jimmy Dore probably is the king of the dirtbag left movement in this country, and David Pakman kind of don't use those terms, but he kind of views them that way, which I think would be a correct analogy. But the Nomiki Konts of the world can sit there and say he's right wing because he doesn't vote within the two-party system, and this is the problem. And you look at the country like Canada. Canada, you have the Liberal Party, which is kind of like a less crappy version of the Democrats, and then you got the Tories, the conservatives in Canada, which is like a less crappy version of the Republicans. You have the New Democratic Party of Canada, which is basically kind of like Social Democrats in Sweden, kind of like the Labour Party in the UK, kind of like the Socialists in France or Spain or something. Those political parties in those countries with a fist and rose or red rose as their emblem. That's what the NDP is, although they have an orange maple leaf as their symbol. But take the whole online left. Your young Turks and your Sam Cedars and your Nomiki Konts and your David Pakmans and your Kyle Kalinskis and your Crystal Balls, and your Gray Zones and your what have you, Combo Couch, all of them, and Jimmy Dore included. Where would they be in Canada? All of them would be at home in the New Democratic Party. Almost every one of them, I can assure you. And that's the problem here in America. We do not have a viable Labor Party in this country, a viable third party of the left. There's no real third party of the left in this country. And the Overton window is further right as a result of it. And if somebody kind of comes in and says, kind of wants to knock over the apple cart, so to speak, they get smeared. Bernie Sanders has been smeared. Tulsi Gabbard's been smeared. And I'm sure that I'm not going to say it's justified, but there are people on the far left that have some serious critiques of Marianne Willamson. Some of it's valid, but some of it's a little overblown. With regard to Jimmy Dore, as I said, I think it's ridiculous to call him a right winger. Just because you go on Tucker Carlson, and just because you don't think that everybody who's right of center, and if you're going to go by the argument by vilifying everybody right of center, then vilify those corporate Democrats, because a lot of those corporate Democrats sit there and accuse people to their left of being right wing too. they look what Hillary Clinton did to Bernie Sanders. I mean, basically, her the Hillbots. Oh, you support Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton. What do you got against a woman running for president? I'm so surprised that people didn't shoot back with this response. Oh, yeah, we have no problem with a woman running for president. But my question to you is, why do you have a problem with a Jewish man becoming president? So there's that. There is that. And then someone like a woman like Jill Stein comes along. That's the woman they don't want. All these people said, well, Bernie Sanders is an old white man. Then they were enthusiastic about voting for an old white man like Joe Biden. Crazy, isn't it? Well, the thing about it is that, Jimmy Dore doesn't play the identity politics and all of that. And I can guarantee you he's a hell of a lot more anti-racist than the virtue signalers out there. Because a lot of the virtue signalers do not add a class component to the problems. And if you do not add class to our society's problems, you're not going to repair race relations ultimately either. Because there are, yes, I said, the problem is now, I will disagree. The only area I disagree with Jimmy Dore and others that view things similarly to him when they say it's not left versus right, but bottom versus up. They're correct about the bottom versus up. I would say that they're maybe incorrect about the left versus right. The job is to convince those who identify as right to not to belittle them, but to convince them that what they believed in as far as the right was the wrong way to go. I'm not saying that they have to give up their social conservatism or what have you, but to live and let live with other people. If you want to still be old-fashioned in what you view as your definition of marriage, or if you don't like abortion, nobody should sit there and chastise you for it. But at the same time, don't go trying to those people who are socially conservative on these issues, don't go trying to stop and physically stop people from same-sex marrying, or stop a woman from having her right to reproductive rights, achieved, that sort of thing. All these other cultural issues. Live and let live. You're entitled to your views. They're entitled to their views. But realize that whatever your politics is, we're all being had by corporate America. And Jimmy Dore addresses this as such. So so you have to convince people economically that their interest is on the left. And that's what it comes down to, that their interest is on the left. And the only way we're going to get out of this crisis is through the left. And if left economic policies become policies, you will see a growing middle class that's been declining for decades. And that means a growing middle class would mean a more affluent and a more tolerant society. And that means that you will see a less hatred. That means you will see less animosity. You will see less culture war. What's dangerous about today versus the 1960s, early 70s is we had a culture war then, but the culture war then, at least you had a better economy. We were moving towards some kind of social democracy, and that went to a screeching halt. We got to go and back to where we were at by the 1960s and early 70s and continue moving into that direction. My dad, who's a Republican, told me one time that when he was in college, that he thought that America was going to become like Sweden by 1980. This is what he told me. And when he was growing up in the 60s and 70s, he figured, by 1980 we'd be like Sweden. We'd be a socialist country like Sweden. And then by 1980, he realized we're never going to be that. But, and amazing, But suffice to say, regarding Jimmy Dore, where's he wrong on these issues? Where's he wrong? Where is he wrong on these issues? He's not wrong on foreign policy. On the foreign policy side, all this, the military-industrial complex is like war's the first answer, and we got a lot of progressives now who were relatively decent on the foreign policy side years ago, now kind of sounding like Bush Cheney era neocons, getting their talking points from the Rachel Maddows of the world. I used to watch Rachel Maddow. I used to watch MSNBC all the time. And it's not working. That doesn't work anymore for me. I used to watch the Young Turks. Young Turks' better years was when Jimmy Dore was on the Young Turks. I would say that Jimmy Dore is a continuation of what was great about the Young Turks today than the Young Turks itself. Even though I was watching the Young Turks before Jimmy Dore got on board. And I liked the Young Turks in its early years. Young Turks became MSNBC light. They're capable of doing a good story every now and then. They did a good story last week. Every now and then they will, but the Katzenberg money kind of ruined it for them for the most part. So they're, for the most part, fairly unbearable to watch. But Jimmy Dore for president in 2024 is a better alternative to me than Bernie Sanders for president 24 in this point, or Marianne Willamson in 2024. They both got great policies, just like Jimmy Dore got great policies. All three of them got great policies. But Jimmy Dore is at least aggressive enough to give it a try. And if Bosch was correct that, Jimmy Dore is basically a Republican and he's just trying to sheep all these burning and bust people into the Republican Party. If that's true, Bosch, when he miserably failed at it, because, you would never catch me dead voting for a Republican. But at this point, you won't catch me dead voting for a Democrat either. And my not voting for either candidate doesn't help the Republican Party. Now, the Democrats, if people want me to go on Team Democrat, they're going to have to earn my vote. They're going to have to earn people's vote. I'm sure if the Democrats did a turnaround tomorrow and the Democrats was created in the image of 1990s Bernie Sanders or 2018 AOC, policy-wise, with the aggression that they had during those years, I'm sure Jimmy Dore will come back to supporting Democrats. I would. But we get more right-wing politics out of the Democratic Party. Again, the Democrats are no longer the Democrats. They're rainbow Republicans. That's what they are. They're Ronald Reagan rainbow Republicans. I'm cool with the tolerance questions. I really am. Good Lord, I am. I was tolerant before tolerance was cool. But but it's, at the same time, you have to have a class analysis, and you have to have an anti-war position too. And if you don't have those things to accompany each other, then you don't really have much. And so, anyway, of the three, of the potential people being discussed about a presidential campaign, and we don't know whether Jimmy Dore is going to actually run for president or not. The rumor I heard that Stephanie, his wife, Zamorano, I cannot pronounce her name, forgive me. And I met her in person actually last year at the Jimmy Dore show. I didn't meet Jimmy Dore himself at either Raleigh at the comedy club Charlie Goodnight's, nor at the event in Washington, but I did hear him speak at the event in Washington 2 weeks ago, and some do his comedy at the Charlie Goodnights in Raleigh. In spite of the, the right-leaning people at Rage Against the War Machine, it still felt like a left-wing event. I did not feel like I was at a Tea Party event or anything like that. I mean, I did not feel like, I knew who the conservatives were out there. I knew who were the hard right people out there. I knew who they were. I can almost recognize who they were. The event was positive. It was, I saw whites, I saw African Americans, I saw Hispanics, I saw Asians, I saw Jewish people, I saw Muslims coming together. I saw Trump supporters, I saw Bernie bros, I saw Green Party people, I saw libertarians, I saw communists, I saw paleo conservatives, I saw DSA members, I saw them all out there. They were all out there protesting against this war. And they really did put aside their differences. And I don't see why that's such a bad thing. We're trying to prevent a nuclear war. And we should try to prevent a nuclear war. Humanity is at a brink right now. And nuclear war won't necessarily start with nukes per se. I mean, there are other ways it will start, and we're not talking about a shot being fired. We're talking about internet shutting down. We're talking about electrical grids. We're talking about water supply. We're talking about everything that's happening with the supply chain crisis in America. Multiply that by 1 trillion. That could happen. And that's probably going to be as bad as nuclear war, because we could become a Mad Max society as a result. And that could be a prelude toward nuclear war if that could happen. So, I mean, there are various scenarios there, and we don't want that to happen either. We need to go resolve this conflict and try to de-escalate it. And that's the only way things are going to get resolved. Flexing your political muscle, military muscle, is not the way to go. It was not the way to go when Reagan was doing it. It was not the way to go when Bush 1 was doing it, nor Bush 2. And Joe Biden's trying to do that crap again, try to do it the way, like a lot of corporate Democrats, they sit there and say, well, this is what they do. We'll just do what that person did. And then they end up doing kind of a sloppy version of that. So anyway, I just wanted to say that, talk about that. And as I said, Jimmy Dore for president, running for president, I would be in favor of the 3 running this year if for the year 2024 if this happens. So we have here on the chat lines, because I'm going to be logging off in a little while here. But before I log off, I want to make it just a quick announcement that at midnight, go on Extra Bulla. Warren's on the chat line. He wished me a happy birthday. Thank you, Warren. Extra Bulla, Warren, Uncle Warren, and Jimmy Sutherland from KRTD, host of what? Co-host The Secret Show every night at midnight. So type in the name Extra Bulla on your search engine, and you will find it real quick. So anyway, here on the chat line we have Snipe Hunter. He says bonjour. How you doing, Snipe Hunter? We have March 5th birthday. Thank you, Peace Dove. All right. Kevin Toohey says Donald Trump is the obvious choice, endorsing MAGA communism, only pro-growth, anti-war candidate. As far as he'll be better on foreign policy than Ron DeSantis. I will say that much. Let's see. There is no Democratic Party. It is showed that they pick a candidate that they want. The primary is the only to use sheep herding for the candidate. I think there's a lot of sheep herding that goes on. You're right about that. Hot retarded chicks. Hi, how are you doing? Always great seeing you here. And hot retarded chicks, I would love to interview you one of these days. I would like to know who you are. Let's see. Dirtbag Leftist says, tune in, and it only took 2 minutes to insult my intelligence. I'm going to make a dirty break. Bye. Okay, bye-bye. All right. Hola. Peace says FST. Okay, that's fine. All right. Let's see here. Karen, I know what she's referring to. Karen Smitanoska says he's a coward, referring to I know who you were referring to Bernie I was talking about earlier. I know. I want my husband's $22 back, Bernie. Sometimes I want all my money back from Bernie and AOC at times too. I understand what you mean. Or water. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Mansa West says, you want to end war, stop the printing press. Real easy solution. Let's see how many boosters. Oh, I'm fairly up to date. I think I'm like one shy on my booster. But again, to each is their own. Let's see. Forcing people to pay for your health care through government is medical tyranny. Every industrialized Western country has had health care guaranteed to the people, and it's certainly tyranny to deny people health care on the basis that they can't afford it. It's a no-brainer. We need health care for all. That's one area where I don't have a problem with taxes being funded, whether people like it or not. If there's something I'm a tanky on at this point, it's healthcare. I have no pity for private insurance companies or big pharma. They are the scum of the earth, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. Can you tell me something the government's in charge that's running efficiently? Oh yeah, corporate welfare. Yeah, they're good at giving money away to parasites like corporations. They do that very well. The only thing government is good at is force and coercion. Oh yes. Yeah, that's right, and that's what Governor DeSantis will give if he becomes president. Registering people who insults him in Florida. Really, everyone needs to stop asking the government to fix the problem it has created. Well, maybe corporations need to stop controlling our government to make that happen. So. Let's see. Yes, Marianne, the next Bernie sheep herder for the DNC. Let's see. Is it Marianne Willamson for the Ukraine war? That is a big problem right there with Marianne Willamson. That is a very big problem. I don't think she is as hawkish as Joe Biden, but she is hawkish more than I care for her to be. America is a fascist nation with a socialist chaser. What socialism, man? So tell me where the socialism is. It is not a capitalist country. Oh my God, you're one of those that can be easily proven. MMT is the furthest thing you can be from capitalism. The government is control. Oh my God, government doing stuff is socialism to people. My gosh, such sloppy thinking. This whole people think government doing stuff is socialism. Wow, that's rich. That really is rich. Let's see. All right, control the money and you control the economy, which is not a free market. It's one of those absolutist things. Government doing anything makes it totally a command economy. I guess everything is nationalized, right down to people's toothbrushes. Sure, whatever. Left economic policy has gotten us into the situation we're in. The opposite, the very opposite. The 70s were a real strong economic powerhouse of a decade, wasn't it? A lot of neoliberalism started in the 1970s, where the mess we're in now. A lot of deregulation and decline of the unions, that sort of thing. The economic force, a new thing, where it's been happening since the beginning of time. Yes, but the radical sabling with nuclear weapons is dangerous. We have jump-started back a generation to the days of Reagan and with this nuclear war nonsense. And you should be frightened. Let's see, Bruce Reed says, I hate Trump, but he's the only one that has a chance of winning who says that he will stop the war. Well, Trump actually did contribute to the situation. He ended the one good thing Reagan and Gorbachev did. The one thing Reagan was reasonable on was the treaty that started the end of the Cold War to prove that he was not pro-Russia. And I have a problem with Trump on that one. Let's see, when the monarchs were around. Let's see here. Hey, Willie, happy birthday tomorrow. Thank you, Warren. Let's see here. I have an idea that the government's been screwing with us for the last 60 years. How about we give it a break and see if the people can fix this problem without their influence? Well, the problem, Mansa, is that the Reagan model has been we're under the very system that you want. The government doesn't do things for people. What little government does for people is done with what's it called? What's that thing called? Means testing. Yeah, heavens forbid. When they talk about healthcare, they don't talk about healthcare for people. They talk about keeping the profitability of the insurance companies and big pharma and providing coverage for people is less of their concerns. Oh my God, you drink the Kool-Aid, my friend. You drink the Kool-Aid. Let's see. You've seen humans at a rally. That's right. Let's see. Hey, y'all. Hey, Rick, how are you doing today? Let's see. Hey, Warren. Yep, Warren was here. Okay. Let's see. Sanctions and economic warfare. And those things never work out. Let's see. All right. Philip Capehart says, we need more people that are going to vote for third party. And that is so true. That a good way to put it is that the Democrats have become rainbow Reagan Republicans. That's a good way to put it. Yep. Yeah. I just thought that up myself. I might start talking about it that way. So there is that. And Warren says, hey, Rick. So anyway, that's probably going to end it right now for this evening for the Willy Bragg Show Saturday night feature in partnership with KRTD this week. We'll be back next week with whatever subject comes to mind. And once again, on my show on Tuesday, the Willy Bragg Show, we'll be having Scott Ritter on the show. We will be discussing war and peace and the situation to make sure that what we can do to reverse this insanity that's been thrusted upon us for the past year, arguably maybe since the past decade, since the CIA toppled the government of the Ukraine back in 2014. So anyway, so be sure to, if you can, to donate to KRTD Media through the Super Chats. And with regard to Kabur's News Group, KRTD Media, be sure to like and subscribe to their channel because that helps with the algorithms when you like and comment, of course. Also, follow them on Twitter, Facebook, Rockfin, and all the other platforms they're on. And same thing regarding my channel. Be sure to hit the like button. It helps with the algorithms. Comment. Good or bad. We'll have a conversation either way. Feel free to share the content on this channel. as a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we are the muckrakers of our time. And to always seek a second opinion. Do not trust corporate media. Always look at them with a critical, skeptical eye. Always look at corporate media. Be suspicious of them. Get a second opinion. Get 22 opinions if you need to. And remember, we're all in this together, and we need to help each other out as far as this critical information, and independent media is the way to go about it, in good measure. So I will end this program right now, and I will see you all next week. Take care. And be sure to watch The Secret Show tonight. Warren and Jimmy will be on The Secret Show. I have no doubt that they will have a great show, as they do every Saturday night. Take care. Bye-bye.